Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's Social Sector Capability Building Series webinar, A Guide to Legal Help Programs. This webinar is jointly organized by the Ministry of Social and Family Development and Pro Bono SG. My name is Qian Hui. I'm one of the lawyers from Pro Bono SG, and I'll be your host for this webinar. Before we begin, there are some housekeeping matters to take note of. For Q&A, today we will be using Pigeonhole Live for our Q&A session. You can submit your questions at any time during the webinar and vote for the questions by others that you would like answered. If you have a smartphone or a tablet with you, just launch your internet browser and enter www.pigeonhole.at into the address bar. Then key in our event passcode, which is SSCapB2024, as shown on the slide. Alternatively, you can click on the link in the chat function to launch Pigeonhole Live on your device. If you are viewing this webinar on your desktop or laptop, you should receive an invitation to launch Pigeonhole. Secondly, a copy of the slides will be made available to you in a follow-up email, which will be sent tomorrow. And finally, please note that today's discussion is not intended to substitute any form of professional legal advice. If you require specific legal advice, please consult a lawyer. So today we are pleased to have the following speakers share their insights and experiences with us. We have with us Mr. Jonathan Chong, Senior Assistant Director of the Legal Aid Bureau, Dr. Leonard Lee, Executive Director of the Community Justice Center, Mr. Marshall Lim, Assistant Chief Public Defender of the Public Defender's Office, and Ms. Sadna Rai, Head of Representation at Pro Bono SG. We are privileged to have Ms. Ang Bee Lian, Commissioner of the Maintenance of Parents, who will be moderating the panel discussion segment. And for today's program, we will have a sharing from each of the legal help agencies in the order of the Legal Aid Bureau, Community Justice Center, Public Defender's Office, and lastly, Pro Bono SG, before ending off with the panel discussion. So let's kick off today's session with a sharing from Legal Aid Bureau with Mr. Jonathan Chong. Jonathan is a legal officer at the Legal Aid Bureau. He provides legal advice and representation to applicants for both civil as well as family law matters. Jonathan is also a part of the Bureau's Social and Family Assistance Committee, a committee which helps to ensure that applicants with non-legal needs, for example, family violence, are referred to Legal Aid Bureau's social service partners. Prior to entering public service, Jonathan practiced commercial litigation at a large law firm. Over to you, Jonathan.
Hui, thank you very much for the very kind introduction. Today I'm here to share more about legal aid, and perhaps I can move on to the scope of my presentation. Today, I'll just take you to four things. The first would be an introduction to legal aid. I'll talk a bit about the legal aid's eligibility criteria. Some of the legal technology initiatives we have that can really help your clients get legal information. And we'll talk a bit about the Legal Aid Bureau's social service referral system and the difference that a social worker can make in a case. So most of you would know Legal Aid has been around for a while. We are 66 years old this year. The mission behind Legal Aid is really to ensure that everyone has access to justice, especially the underprivileged. At Legal Aid, we provide three services. We provide legal advice, which is oral advice that's given during office hours. We provide legal assistance, such as drafting deeds of separations and wills. And most importantly, we provide legal aid, which is representation in court. Now, legal aid does charge a small contribution. But for legal advice, it's free. When we provide legal assistance, such as when we draft deeds of separations or wills, we do charge a small contribution of $200. If we represent your clients in court, we do charge a contribution as well. And the contribution will really depend on your client's financial means. Our contributions could be as low as $0, and it will max out at $1,650. We also take small deposits for out-of-pocket expenses, such as if we need to obtain a medical report on behalf of your clients. If your clients face financial difficulty, they can always apply to pay the contributions in installments or if they really cannot afford the contribution, they can always apply to reduce or to waive them. When they do so, just bear in mind that you will need to help them collate supporting documents and set out the reasons why they will need such a reduction or waiver. Now, for legal aid, we actually cover a very wide variety of matters, ranging from divorce, including Sharia divorce matters, all the way to monetary claims. For certain types of matters, like you can see on the screen, marked with a little asterisk, there are actually self-help avenues which your clients can turn to as a first port of call. So for example, if your client would like to file a maintenance claim or a deputyship application, he or she can always do so using the Family Court's integrated family application management system. But for whatever reason, if your client is not tech savvy, illiterate, or perhaps he or she just really needs help, don't worry, we can still assist. Now, for the Legal Aid Bureau, we generally cover civil matters. There are some areas that we don't cover. The first one would be criminal proceedings, and criminal legal aid in Singapore will be covered by my colleagues in the Public Defender's Office as well as the Pro Bono SG. I just wanted to highlight that if you have a client who has a civil legal matter, but the only issue, but admits liability for whatever that matter might be, and the only issue is how he pays on that liability, this is something we may not be able to assist with. I'll talk briefly about the eligibility criteria for legal aid, legal advice, assistance, and aid. So at the Legal Aid Bureau, we apply a three-part test before granting legal aid. First, the person who applies should be a Singapore citizen or a permanent resident. And second, this person must satisfy our means test. Most of you will be familiar with the per capita gross monthly household income, or PCHI method of measurement. At LAB, the average PCHI should be 1,050 or lower. And the person who is applying, if he or she has property, the annual value should not be more than $21,000. The person who's applying is allowed to have savings. If the person is 60 years and below, he or she can have up to $10,000 in savings, or 60 years and above, 40,000 or lower in savings. So for those of you who are familiar with legal aid, you will note that actually the means testing criteria has been enhanced recently. The PCHI used to be 9050, for example. And before we extend legal aid, we will look at the merits of a person's case. And the merits are actually decided by a legal aid board. This test is actually decided by the legal aid board. Your client's case will be looked at, a recommendation will be made, and the board comprising the director of legal aid and at least 2 or 3 solicitors from private practice will look at your client's case. So you can really rest assured that for every case that comes to us, you have at least 3 to 4 lawyers looking at it before aid is granted. Now, if you recall, I mentioned that we provide 3 types of services: advice, assistance, and aid. If your client only requires advice, we do a very short abbreviated means test. That's the only test he or she has to satisfy before receiving advice. If your client needs assistance, he or she also only needs to satisfy the means test. It's only if your client requires a legal representation, then he or she must satisfy both the means and merits test. Now, of course, some of your clients may be in circumstances that are quite difficult. For example, they may need funds to pay for medical treatment, or they are caring for someone else in their family who is really sick. There is an independent means testing panel that has the power to waive some of the means test criteria for deserving applicants. So if you're assisting a client and he or she has extenuating circumstances but doesn't qualify for legal aid, you could consider helping your client apply to this independent means testing panel. The background of the panel is very broad. They really come from all sorts of backgrounds, and they will provide a very robust assessment of your client's case. Now, moving on, I also wanted to talk briefly about some of the legal technology initiatives we have in legal aid. we're quite big on using technology to try and help members of the public, especially your clients, have access to legal information. So I just want to talk about three tech initiatives which we have. The first is the Intelligent Legal Assistance Bot, the Divorce Aid, and eBantu. Now, for the Intelligent Legal Assistance Bot, it's a bot that can be found on Legal Aid's website, which gives tailored legal information. At the end of the session, if Legal Aid can assist, your client will actually be provided with a link to register for Legal Aid. And interestingly, or good for your client, would actually be the emailing of the chat history of chatting with the bot. That chat history will be emailed to your client. So you can see on the screen that actually this bot covers quite a wide variety of legal areas, and we strongly encourage you to test it out when you can. Not to worry, I understand that the slides will be sent to you, so you can use the QR code to access the bot. The next technology initiative I want to speak about would be the Divorce Aid. It's basically an estimator of how matrimonial assets will be divided if your client and his or her spouse were to divorce. So basically, your client will have to provide the tool with some information relating to his direct financial contributions to the marriage and some of his indirect contributions to the marriage. The tool, which is actually trained on real cases, will then give a rough estimate of what your client can expect to receive post-divorce. So that would be how the results are presented to your client. The last tool I wanted to briefly talk about is this tool called eBantu, Bantu meaning helper in Malay. It's basically a Sharia court divorce e-form filling tool that provides legal information to your clients and helps your client fill up basic Sharia court forms such as a statement of case or an originating summons. It's really quite a useful tool, and we are in the midst of translating the tool from English to Malay, so more of your clients can have access to this tool. I wanted to highlight that besides giving legal advice at the Ministry of Law Services Centre at Maxwell Road, Legal Aid also provides legal advice in two other forms. The first one would be advice through video conferencing, and it's really available at many community clubs, FSCs, and social services offices. We've also taken the effort to extend our legal advice sessions to prisoners in Changi Prison, and they have access to us via telephone. So if your client ever applies for legal aid or wants to apply for legal aid, he can also do so online through our applicant portal. It's a portal which allows your clients to not only apply for legal aid, but if legal aid is granted, or if a file is open for your client can also use the portal to upload information, speak to his case officer, and get updates on his case. Now I've come to the last part of my presentation, which is the Legal Aid's social service referral system and the difference social workers make in our cases. Now, at LAB, we find that an applicant's legal trouble is often a symptom of other underlying deeper issues. We actually actively screen each applicant for whether they have non-legal needs, such as are they facing family violence, homelessness, or some sort of other need. If necessary, we will refer them with their consent to a social service partner. Over the years, PAVE and MSF have been real key partners for us. So I just wanted to end with a case study to maybe just show you all the type of difference a social worker can really make in a person's case. So in this particular case, it's my case. It's an adoption matter. The applicants were a Singaporean husband with his Vietnamese wife, who was a Singapore PR. They wanted to adopt the wife's Vietnamese son from the wife's first marriage after her first husband had passed away. Now, of course, the husband was very ill. The wife was the sole breadwinner in this family. They only came to us after MSF stopped issuing home study report waivers. For those of you who are familiar with adoption, you will know that in order to begin adoption proceedings, you need a home study report. home study reports can be quite expensive. I understand it costs around $2,000 to $2,500. Now, luckily for these applicants, they were assisted by a very good social worker. When LAB applied to MSF on behalf of the applicants to seek a HSR waiver, MSF actually had some questions for us in relation about the applicant's background. We sent the questions over to the social worker to help us gather the information from the applicants. Instead of just getting the answers to these questions, the social worker actually prepared a very comprehensive social report on the applicant's circumstances. And with that social report, we were able to obtain a HSR waiver, a home study report waiver for the applicants. The good news doesn't end there though. During the adoption proceedings, the applicants filed a document with the Vietnamese child's Vietnamese birth certificate with an English translation done by a Vietnamese official in Vietnam. The court actually wanted the applicants to file a translator's affidavit to confirm the accuracy of the translation. Now, the applicants wouldn't have been able to do that. One way would have been to fly back to Vietnam and find the official that did the translation, but that was not viable for them financially. The alternative would actually be to have the birth certificate translated in Singapore again. And that would cost the applicants about $200 plus, and that would represent about 10% of the applicant's gross monthly household income. So with these reasons, we wrote into court and actually got the court to agree to dispense with the need for a translator's affidavit. Now, how did we know that $200 would have been 10% of the applicant's monthly household income? Again, it was because of the social worker and his very comprehensive social report. If he had not done that social report, we would not have had this information, and we would not have been able to convince the court to dispense with the translator's affidavit. And so this case really shows that the diligence of one social worker can make such a big difference to the life and case of our applicants. Yes. So on that note, I'd just like to thank you all for listening to my part of the presentation. I'll be handing it off to Dr. Leonard next. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonathan, for the sharing on LAB. Next, we will hear from Dr. Leonard Lee from the Community Justice Centre. Dr. Leonard Lee has been at the helm of the Community Justice Centre, the charity arm of the Singapore courts, since its fledgling years in 2013. He has held leadership roles in the non-profit sector for the past 23 years. Under his leadership and beliefs, together with his team, the Community Justice Centre has exemplified that it is possible to draw upon the unique strengths of various sectors to close social legal gaps for many in Singapore, through innovation, knowledge management, and establishing strong collaborative partnerships. Over to you, Leonard.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Okay, thank you for being patient. Okay, so I think I'll just start off to talk about a little bit about the IKEA law. Okay, so this is a theme that I actually use, okay, for this year. Okay, on what the CJC does and why is it so closely related to IKEA. So I'll just talk about the genesis of the CJC first, okay, to give you a better understanding why is it that we are doing what we are doing. Okay, so it actually originated as a help center at the Singapore courts in 2010. And the purpose of it is actually to provide information on court processes and procedures for those who are representing themselves. So subsequently, the project actually won a UN award in 2012, which then actually propelled the courts to want to think out of a more ambitious plan in terms of helping litigants in person. Okay, so at the point of time, what the courts is actually saying is that there are more and more people choosing to self-represent themselves, whether is it that they can't afford a lawyer, or whether or even if they choose, it's a choice for them to just represent themselves. So this becomes a issue for the courts, okay, because it is necessary for any self-represented person to actually know a little bit about their case and whether how they can go about doing it okay, in the courts when they present their case. So this is when this eventually led to the launch of the Community Justice Center, okay, in 2013 as a charity with stakeholders from the government and philanthropy sector. Its primary purpose is to support and advocate on the social legal challenges faced by self-represented persons. So what are some of the challenges that self-represented persons face when they come to court? Okay, many of them will have a lack of legal knowledge and skills. Most of them will have financial constraints, and some will actually face emotional and psychological stress. And imagine yourself coming to the court, just coming in without a case. Okay, you would actually have that. You would actually feel a little bit intimidated, and most, if not all, actually do have issues in terms of understanding the court procedures and processes. So recent surveys, okay, that was conducted by the courts in 2023-24, and the survey actually clearly indicate, okay, that having accessible and understandable court processes and services will have the most influence on the trust and trustiness of the Singapore courts. So so I will now elaborate a little bit more, okay, about what are some of the services that we actually offer to a self-represented person. Okay, we actually offer legal help. Okay, and for legal help aspect, okay, we have actually on-site legal consultants who are available between 10 to 4, Monday to Friday, located at the center itself at the state courts. Okay, so this service is free. Okay, however, it's a first come, first served service, and it's actually meant for those who have a current court case that they need advice on, or those who are planning to go into court. And we do have programs that helps to negotiate a settlement before you even enter in the court system. Okay, this helps to actually reduce a lot of stress and a lot of costs, okay, in terms of legal fees. Okay, then we have legal technicians and ad hoc legal representatives. Okay, ad hoc legal representatives are actually present, especially when there's a case that actually fails the means test of public legal aid. Okay, and they desperately need lawyers to represent them in court. And normally, such persons are normally referred to by the judges themselves. Okay, in terms of information, we have court procedures and processes advice at the help center. Okay, we have guidebooks, many guidebooks, okay, that provide information on the various type of cases in courts. And of course, we conduct public talks whenever there's a request for it. So in terms of processes, okay, later on I'll touch a little bit on Navigate Finder. Okay, and then we have concepts on site. So basically, concepts on site are volunteers who are willing, who is trained to actually accompany someone who is not represented by a lawyer, okay, into the court. Okay, so they can actually take down notes for the person, or they can actually provide emotional and support for the person. Okay, one example is that where recently we have a witness, okay, of a sexual crime. Okay, so when she actually broke down during the court session, because she feels very intimidated when the defendant actually appears into court. So that actually requires some form of emotional support to the person. Okay, and eventually the case went through without any other incidents. Okay, so social support, we actually provide food rations and immediate interim financial support. Okay, and counseling and also in terms of counseling, and also with referrals to other SSAs, okay, which I think many of you have already been working with us on your cases. Okay, so lastly, we actually the fifth thrust of the CJC is actually on innovation. So we are entering the phase where we believe that online tools is going to be really helpful for the for social workers, to help their clients, and also for clients themselves to be independent in terms of seeking help for their legal issues. Okay, so these are just some of the newspaper cuttings that kind of highlighted some of the programs that I mentioned just now. Okay, back to IKEA. Okay, as you can see, there are many similarities between the CJC and IKEA. So while IKEA is known to provide the necessary tools and instructions to complete assembling furniture independently, okay, the CJC strives to provide the necessary tools to navigate the legal landscape independently and effectively. So later on, I will highlight why this point is going to be very important. Okay, now to the virtual center. So in the interest of time, I think I would for this talk, I would just share some of our digital tools, which I think some of you may find useful in helping your clients with. Okay, I will start off by our automated document assembly, and then that will be followed by Navigate Finder and the co-parenting app. Okay, so the CJC Self-Help eWeb was launched in 2018, and it comes with the automated court documents assembly. So EDDA is able to create legal documents by filling in blanks with information you provide and to generate out the necessary court forms for submission, simplifying the paperwork needed for certain court cases. So more than 6,000 individuals have generated their completed court forms and have submitted to the courts with 0 error. In other words, there's no rejection by the courts. And the CJC was also awarded the PST award in 2019 for this initiative. Okay, next, we'll talk about the Navigate Finder. So this is a further enhancement to the Self-Help eWeb. We have recently launched a Navigate Finder that can actually help individuals navigate legal processes, find relevant information, or automate certain aspects of legal work. It aims to bridge the gap between complex legal systems and individuals who need legal assistance but cannot afford or choose not to use the traditional mode of legal services. The Navigate Finder provides step-by-step guidance on how to navigate through the legal processes, such as filing of court documents, responding to legal notices, or preparing for hearings. This helps the individuals understand what needs to be done and in what order. So, the Navigate Finder actually helps to also identify whether the appointment of deputy is required for the case or deputyship Navigate Finder. Okay, so it also direct users to the appropriate resources where applicable. In combination with our automated court documents assembly, the system is able to streamline the process of drafting legal documents correctly and according to the relevant legal standards. Okay, so but if you want to find out more or even to use the Navigate Finder, there's a QR code. It will lead you directly to the program itself. Okay, so but that said, just to place a disclaimer here. Okay, even though automation is good, but it also have its own limitations. Okay, as legal issues often involve complexities that may require a lawyer's interpretation and application of the law. So just to highlight once again, the automated court documents assembler is not meant to replace, for some cases, the need for skilled legal professionals who can provide tailored advice and representation. Okay, next to the co-parenting app. Okay, so we all know that family courts have a legal framework, in place to ensure that both parents fulfill their obligations, such as financial responsibilities, and have access to their children, after a divorce. However, as we all know, effective communication and cooperation between parents is crucial, but more often than not, is lacking. So this is difficult, due to the emotions, that's understandable, involved in the divorce. And more importantly, having both parents to cooperate, right, is actually essential for the well-being of the child. So CJC's co-parenting app SG work on the progressive app web app. Okay, in other words, you can actually use it on your smart device. You can actually use it on your laptop. Okay, and provide a centralized system or platform for communication between parents. This reduces the need of contact, which can be emotionally charged or difficult post-divorce, and clear documented communication, which helps to clarify arrangements regarding child maintenance and access. So within the app is a shared calendar where parents can input access schedules, school events, etc., and the other important dates. This helps both parents stay organized and informed of their child's schedule, reducing conflicts and misunderstanding. The app also includes features for tracking expenses related to the child, such as the medical bills, school fees, and many more. This can facilitate transparency and accountability in financial matters, including child maintenance payments. And most importantly, the app also serves as a digital record of communication, agreement, and any changes of schedule and or arrangement. Okay, this documentation can be useful in case of dispute or legal proceedings, providing a clear history of interactions and agreements. So if you are interested, if you are interested in using the Progressive app, this is the QR code is actually on this slide. Okay, but however, you will need to have a partner, maybe a friend or colleague to be involved as well to try the app, right? You need 2 persons, but don't get your spouse involved. Okay, there'll be some misunderstanding after that. Okay, so our phase 2 may include tools for dispute resolution and some resources and tips on effective co-parenting. So for some information about CJC, okay, so you can scan this QR code to know more about the CJC, okay, and our online tools. Okay, for some clarification on criteria and contact, the on-site legal advice at the state courts, there's actually no means test for it. It's free to use for those who have a court case or pending a court case, and it's first come, first serve. Information and various court assistance. Okay, there's also no means test. Okay, you just need to email the help email, okay, and we'll assess a solution that fits your needs. Online tools, guidebook, also no means test. It's free to use. You just need to email us if you need any further assistance pertaining to it, or even if you need training, or even if you think that your FSC would like to know more about the tools, okay, you can just email us and we'll arrange for a separate meeting. And as for the negotiation and settlement services, yes, there's no means test. However, there's a cost to it because lawyers are involved in this. So the cost is actually at $300 per hour, limited to a maximum of 6 hours. Okay, with that, okay, so just remember, if you can't remember what I say today, when you think of us, just think of IKEA. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonard, for the sharing on CJC. Next, we will hear from Mr. Marshall Lim from the Public Defender's Office. Marshall was appointed the Assistant Chief Public Defender in December 2023. He works with public defenders in the Public Defender's Office to provide criminal defense aid to individuals charged with non-capital criminal offences. Prior to his appointment, Marshall was a Deputy Public Prosecutor with the Attorney General's Chambers for almost a decade before entering the private sector to practice litigation and dispute resolution. Over to you, Marshall.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marshall. I'm the Assistant Chief Public Defender representing the Public Defender's Office to share with you the work that we do at the Public Defender's Office. Before I begin, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting us to join in this session to share on the work that we do. And I hope that after this session, you have a better understanding of the services that we can provide to your clients whom you service. The mission of the Public Defense Office is really quite straightforward. We want to provide criminal defense aid to those who are unable to afford legal representation. And this is just a broad overview of the matters I'd like to discuss in today's presentation. Firstly, I would like to talk about the Public Defender's Office, a very new office, new kid on the block, as it is, the eligibility requirements for criminal defense aid. So how does one become eligible to avail themselves of criminal defense aid, and then we'll move on to talk about the application process. How do you apply to get criminal defense aid, and the sort of outcomes that the Public Defender's Office would like to achieve, both legal and social. This is an overview of the government-funded legal aid schemes. For the civil side, you have heard from my colleague Jonathan from the Legal Aid Bureau. So civil legal aid is administered by the Legal Aid Bureau, which is a department under the Ministry of Law. And for the criminal side, it used to be that it used to be provided by class. The criminal legal aid scheme is presently administered by Bono SG, and we had a new kid on the block. So we are working with PBSG to co-deliver criminal defense aid, and government-funded criminal defense aid is now administered by the Public Defender's Office, which is also a department under the Ministry of Law. We also have legal assistance for capital offences. This is known as LASCO, and is administered by the Supreme Court. So this is an overview of the different type of legal aid schemes that are government-funded and which may be relevant to some of the clients that you are working with. So what is the Public Defender's Office? Well, the Public Defender's Office is a very young office. We've started operations on the 1st of December 2022, and it aims to provide criminal defense aid to eligible accused persons who are unable to afford legal representation due to limited means. So I think the idea is that we want to enhance access to justice. We understand that when a person faces criminal charges in the courts, it can be a very difficult period of their lives. They are uncertain about the legal process, and they are uncertain about how to meet and defend themselves in court. So the Public Defender's Office was set up specifically to bridge that gap, especially for persons who may not be able to afford private legal counsel outside. And what we do is that we institutionalize public defense within our criminal justice system through government-funded criminal defense aid, which is delivered by the Public Defender's Office. And at the same time, we recognize the importance of private sector lawyers who are providing pro bono legal services, and we encourage it, and we continue to partner with them. And so the Public Defender's Office and the Criminal Legal Aid Scheme or class co-delivers public or criminal defense aid. So later on, you'll hear from my colleague, Ms. Sadhana, who's from PBSG. She'll come and talk about the work that she does with the Pro Bono SG. And we complement the work that we do. The Public Defender's Office and PBSG complements each other. So who are public defenders? Essentially, public defenders are full-time government-paid lawyers who represent low-income or vulnerable clients. And the public defenders are appointed by the Chief Public Defender in accordance with the Public Defenders Act. And our current strength is at 20 public defenders. That includes the Chief Public Defender and the Deputy Chief Public Defender. And so just to give you a broad overview of our caseload thus far and the help that we have been able to extend to the community. So since our founding, which is on the 1st of December 2022, we have received 1,700 applications. This is, if I recall correctly, this is at the end of 2023. So I think within the span of about a year or so, we have processed close to 2,000 applications. And of these applications, almost 2,000 applications, 820 have been assessed to be eligible for aid, and 440 have been aided directly by the PDO. So the completed GA cases are basically cases where we have seen to the end, right, where the aid process is completed because the client has already pleaded guilty and the court process has ended, or maybe the charges are withdrawn and hence the case completes. So as at the end of 2023, we have completed 160 cases. So it's quite a significant caseload for a very young organization. and we're continuing to expand our capacity to aid more and more members of the community who may require criminal defense assistance. So the scope of the assistance and the offences covered, I think this is probably the most critical part of my presentation, which would interest many of you who work directly with clients. So what we do, our scope, what do we provide? We provide criminal defense assistance for first instance proceedings. What it means is that if an individual is charged in court for the first time, right, either in the state courts or the high courts, so these are known as first instance proceedings. We also assist individuals who require criminal defense aid in relation to criminal appeals or criminal-related applications. These generally would happen after the conclusion of the first instance proceedings, where either they are trying to appeal against a conviction, appeal against the sentence that was imposed, or appeal against both, or they make certain related applications, for example, criminal references or criminal motions. So these are the type of work that we do for our clients. And the offense coverage, well, we basically cover all criminal offenses with specific exceptions. Some of these excluded offenses I've listed on the screen. You can take a look at it. The complete list is available on our website. I will share the link with you later, and you can look at what we cover and what we don't. But by and large, I would say that the majority of the offenses which most people face in Singapore, we do cover them. And some of the exceptions generally relate to syndicated offenses or organized crime. So who will represent eligible applicants? So after an assessment is done, right, a case will either be assigned to a public defender who works with the public defender's office, or you'll be assigned to class and a volunteer lawyer with class who will take up the case. So we have since increased the coverage of criminal defense aid to try to assist as many people as we can. Previously, it was up to the 25th percentile resident households by income, but now we have raised the PCHI from 950 to 1,650 to cover up to the 35th percentile. And previously, only offences under 17 Acts were covered, and now we have extended to cover all criminal offences with those exceptions which I've talked about. So this is the full eligibility criteria for criminal defense aid. You don't have to worry about this because I understand that the slides will be shared with you after the seminar is concluded, and you can take a look at this. And all these information is in any event available on our website. So once you enter our website, there are a lot of self-help materials that you can refer to, or you can print out and distribute to your clients. They talk about eligibility, application process. They talk about, for example, what are documents that you need to present when you're making an application. Such information is available on our website, and so you will not be short of information if you need it. And so we come to perhaps one of the more important points. How do you practically apply for criminal defense aid? So if a client who faces a criminal charge, there are several ways that we try to make it as convenient as is possible for the applicants. The first one, the more traditional method, is to walk in. So Jonathan from the LAB has shared briefly about the Admin Law Services Center. So this is the same facility as that the PDO uses as well. So applicants, whether they're facing civil issues that require civil legal assistance from the LAB, or whether they require criminal legal assistance from the PDO, can walk into the Ministry of Law Services Center located at the 7th floor of the URA Center at the East Wing, and the staff there will be able to help them register a case. Alternatively, they can also visit the help center at the state courts and talk to any of the staff there for assistance. For clients who may be comfortable using the internet, tech savvy or tech literate, you may wish to direct them to the online form where they can file an application using the online form. And at this point of time, if the applicant is above 21 years old or 21 years old and above, he can apply for himself. At this point of time, if the applicant is below the age of 21, we will generally require a parent or guardian to apply on his or her behalf. For your clients who may be presently incarcerated or remanded in prisons, we have already worked with prisons to ensure that such a application facility is available to remanded inmates so that they can access the application forms and apply for criminal defense assistance even when they are remanded in prisons. So these are the supporting documents that should be submitted with an application. I wouldn't go through them in detail, but again, not to worry about this. All these documents will be provided, or rather all these slides will be provided to you after the end of the seminar, and you can look through them at your own pace. So just to talk very briefly about the application process. Well, the first thing is to check if they qualify and to prepare the supporting documents, right? And we submit the application, and there'll be 2 interviews. The process is very similar to what LAB does as well for its applicants, essentially a means and a merits assessment. And following these 2 assessments, the client will receive a notification on the application outcome. If they're successful and if there's a determination that they should be paying a contribution amount, it will be made known to the client. And a lawyer is assigned to the applicant once the preceding requirements are met. So what outcomes do we want to achieve for our clients? Firstly, legal outcomes. The primary function of the PDO is to assist clients defend themselves in the court when they face criminal charges. And that is really what we want to do, obtain appropriate and just sentences or outcomes for our client. So that is our core, our core mandate or core function. But at the same time, we understand and we appreciate that we need to provide holistic assistance to our clients. So we also want to achieve social outcomes for them. So at the same time, very much like LAB, we work with other agencies, social service agencies and government agencies. We link up with them to try to provide a more holistic assessment of their needs and then redirect them to these agencies to receive non-legal assistance. So at present time, I think you can look on the screen, the institutions and agencies that we work with, be it prisons, or IMH or AIC. We are building more links in the social service sector. We're currently in early talks with PAVE to link up our clients with PAVE so that we can provide access to counselors in the right situations where they require it. We are working with MSF and SSI to identify how we can equip our PD officers to identify non-legal needs of our clients so that we can channel our clients to these sort of other avenues for assistance. These are just some case studies where I would not go through every single one, but I think quite apart from just wanting to achieve legal outcomes for our clients, we deeply appreciate that a lot of our clients require more than just legal assistance, and if we can do our part, and we try very hard to do our part to link them up with the relevant social agencies, and we can holistically address some of the challenges they face in other aspects of their life, then we feel that that will go a long way in ensuring that the legal troubles, well, when they come to us, this will be perhaps the last time they will ever face a legal trouble. We remain hopeful. We have great trust with our partners in the social services agencies. They are very important stakeholders and we work very closely with them. And we want to establish more links with the social service agencies to expand the scope of assistance that we can provide to PDO clients. So these are the ways that you can reach out to us. I think I spoke about briefly. Our website is listed below, pdo.mlaw.gov.sg. I do encourage you to visit it at your own time. There are quite a number of resources there. Our brochures are there. We have some guides on how to apply, eligibility requirements. All these materials are there for your perusal. So thank you very much for giving me the time to share with you about the work of the PDO. We will come back again later for a Q&A, and if there are more questions, I will take them then. Thank you.
Thank you, Marshall, for the sharing on PDO. Lastly, we will hear from Ms. Sadna Rai from Pro Bono SG. Sadna is Head of Representation at Pro Bono SG, which provides legal aid for criminal, family justice, and other community law matters. She oversees a robust in-house legal team, including myself, which now comprises 12 community lawyers dedicated to providing high-quality pro bono legal representation. Sad committed herself to pro bono criminal work by joining the inaugural batch of Criminal Legal Aid Scheme Fellows in 2015. Sadna was subsequently offered the newly minted role of the Class Advocate in December 2016, and in 2021, she took up the position of Head of Representation. She is a recipient of the Joseph Grimberg Outstanding Young Advocate Award in 2023, which recognizes young lawyers in good standing who exhibit professional excellence, service to the profession and the bar, service to the community, and a reputation for or all the advancement of legal ethics and professional responsibility. To date, Sadna has advised and represented over 500 clients and continues to act for the underprivileged. Over to you, Sad.
Thank you, Chen Hui, for the lovely introduction. Hi, everyone. I'm Sadna from Pro Bono SG. You can call me Sad if you ever see me outside and you need to chat with me. I'll be sharing with you a little bit more about what we do at Pro Bono SG and what are the additional services we provide that complement what my colleagues have spoken to you about. The idea behind the services we provide is that we co-deliver legal assistance. We don't try and duplicate some of these services, and I'll make clear what the services we provide that are exclusive and what segments of the population we serve. And for our partners, LAB, PDO, CJC, for example, there are certain types of cases that should go to them as well, and I'll make that very clear in my presentation. But before I do that, let me tell you a little bit more about ourselves. At Pro Bono SG, we are a registered charity with the status of an IPC character and a company limited by guarantee. Our vision is justice for all, and our mission is to enable access to justice for the vulnerable and the disadvantaged through three main routes. First, legal awareness. Second, legal advice. And third, advocacy. We have over financial year 22 and 23 assisted over 14,000 lives. We have 432 volunteers in all of our schemes that assisted at legal clinics, and also 232 volunteer lawyers who assisted in our criminal legal aid scheme. Across the organization, if I could go on to the next slide, there are over 16,000 service users in financial year 23 to 24. We have over 3,000 registered volunteers, out of which about 300 are actively providing services. The three schemes or the three ways that we provide assistance is through awareness, advice, and advocacy. Now, what does that mean? Awareness is a way of educating our service users and the public about their legal options and about various aspects of the law. And we do that through legal talks, our project schools, in which we go into schools and we talk to students about aspects of the law that would be relevant to them. We also have various outreach events in which we host, or rather we share a little bit more about some of the legal services we provide and also some of the legal options that are available to the public at large, and also publications. We also do quite a number of webinars, like the one you're attending right now, to share a little bit more about the law and to educate the public at large. The next level of assistance we provide is advice. When we talk about advice, we do it through several ways. We have project law help and also legal clinics. These are two ways in which our volunteer lawyers and our in-house lawyers are able to provide direct guidance to applicants who come to us to tell us, I have this issue, can you please tell me what are my legal options? I don't know if I really want to go to court at this point. Are there any alternatives I can explore? So this is the legal guidance avenue that PBSG provides through our legal clinics. We also have community law centers. I'll talk about them in a little bit, but these community law centers are located very conveniently in the heartlands for people to actually, they can come and get a consultation session at these community law centers, and they can speak to a lawyer who will be based there. The last tier of assistance we provide is advocacy, and we do that through 3 schemes. First, the criminal legal aid scheme. Second, the family justice support scheme. And third, the ad hoc pro bono scheme. I'll talk a little bit more about these schemes a bit later. If I can move on to the next slide, I thought it'd be good to talk about where we are located. Now, I was told that all of you would like to take pictures of the slides, so I thought I'd make it easy for you to see the data on the slides. It's really, you just need to remember we're located at 4 key locations at this point. First, Community Law Center in Tian De Temple, that's in Hougang. Second, at Realm of Tranquility, and that's in Woodlands. The third is a Transnational Family Care Center, and we're co-locating with SSCFSE. And lastly, our headquarters at the State Courts, and that's at Chinatown. So these are the 4 locations that are conveniently located. And if there is a client that you'd like to refer to us, or you'd like us to speak to, and they'd like to meet in person, they have the option of choosing these individual locations. If I can move on to the next slide and talk, I just thought it would be good to talk a little bit more about our community law centers and why these centers were first implemented. The idea behind it was that we felt there were service users who had difficulties coming to town to talk to a lawyer. So coming to the city, talking to a lawyer in an office can be quite intimidating. Even at the state courts as well, we did find that, you know, having to clear security, having to be scanned, coming into the office can be quite mentally difficult for some clients. We also had clients who had physical issues of mobility, and they struggled to see a lawyer as well. And so the Community Law Center, which is based in the heartlands, was intended to give these types of clients an alternative. It allowed them to come down to our offices to still talk to a lawyer face to face, but do it in a much more relatable manner, a much more comfortable environment, which then allowed them to open up a little bit more about some of the issues that they were facing. So, for example, what you see is a picture of, on the right, is a picture of our Community Law Center at Tian De Temple. We have 2 container offices which we've set up on temple grounds, and the fence surrounding the temple, one part of the fence has been removed in order to allow service users the option of coming in and out without having to go through the temple. We also have on the bottom left-hand side of the picture, a picture of the Realm of Tranquility front desk, the reception. So service users can access both the TCM clinic. The Realm of Tranquility is a low bono TCM clinic, and it provides services for people of modest means. And when they access those services, they also get the opportunity to learn more about what Bono SG does and access our services as well. We are hosted free of charge by all our community partners. Thank you very much for your support. And this has given us access also to other clients and partners as well. We hope that by setting up these centers, we get to help those who are facing some kind of barriers in access to justice, such as the financial challenges, mobility challenges, mental health challenges even can sometimes be an issue for some of these applicants, and we hope to be able to assist them through these centers. On the next slide, and perhaps just to give you an idea of the profile of clients that we see, in our Tian De Temple, for example, the elderly formed 34% of our clientele, and 53% of them spoke predominantly Mandarin or Chinese dialects and required assistance in that language. And interestingly, even in a world where everything has become online and is so much easier to conduct Zoom meetings, 80% of the clientele opted for legal consultation to be given in person. And on the next slide, just to also share with you how our clients found out about us, and this is where all of you come in. you'll notice that 20% of our clients found out about us through community partners, through their social workers, through their FSCs, and also through community partners like LAB and PDO, who direct clients to us when they are unable to take on cases. So it's actually very important. All of you are very important to us because you are the ones, when you find out about these schemes, you are the ones who then tell your clients about them and direct them to us. On the next slide as well, just to make information a little bit more accessible to those who may actually be able to use some form of technology, we have an app, logoware.sg, and on the site, there are some very basic relatable topics, which are I would say we try not to include difficult legalese like legal language, and we have made it very simple for the service user. Basically, it's asking them very simple, straightforward questions and providing them some basic guidance so that the information that they are looking for is accessible at their fingertips as well. Fun facts, in the first 2 months of starting this, over 3,000 views. We received over 3,000 views and an increase in the number of inquiries to our helpline from 250 to 400 in a month. So this proves to be quite an effective way of reaching out to people and providing them with some basic guidance and then directing them to us. And who are we? Okay, so I spoke a little bit about our volunteers and our in-house lawyers. Maybe I can share a little bit more about the people that you will speak to if you do end up coming to us or directing your clients to us. On the next slide, you'll see my team of very happy in-house lawyers. I promise I didn't force them to smile for the photo. They were very happy to take this photo with me. This is a team of what we call community lawyers who work at the community law centers and also at the state courts. They comprise family law practitioners and also criminal practitioners. I've blended them very nicely so that you can't tell, who works on family law and who works on criminal law, but they're all equally able to assist because they have for some of them, this is their first job. And their mentality as community lawyers is how can we make the law more accessible to those who struggle to understand it. And so these are the faces you will see, these smiling faces, you will see them at the community law centers if you do pop by. We also have volunteer lawyers who volunteer regularly at our community law centers and for some of our consultation sessions. These are lawyers with years of experience and they can very quickly provide top-notch legal guidance for certain issues that your clients may be facing. And so all you have to do is send your client to the community law center. One of the slides I have included will show you how to access the consultation sessions. Okay, so what do we do and what are our schemes? Now, I promised to talk a little bit more about the 3 schemes that we administer, but perhaps I can just run through very quickly what are the 3 ways we provide assistance. On the next slide, you will see what we call the 3 type of ways in which we provide assistance at our multiple touch points. We have information and referral, which is available to all who walk into our community law centers and also at our state courts. Basically, we provide simple guidance and as to where to go and what to apply for. So for example, if you have a client who's facing a criminal matter, you come into our community law center or they come into our community law center and they say, look, I'm facing this very simple criminal matter. What do I do? Our officers at the front desk, our center managers, are able to triage the situation and direct them to the right avenue. So, for example, if it's a Singaporean who's facing a criminal issue, we will direct them to PDO's website. And if they struggle with the application, we will assist them in filling out the application form as well. This avoids them having to travel to multiple locations or to be ding-donged between various touch points as well. So through the information and referral avenue, we are able to then direct them to the right resource. We then provide consultation and guidance, and through this avenue, we give the service user an access to a lawyer, and the lawyer is then able to tell them what are their legal options. And these are primarily staffed by our community lawyers, but we do have regular volunteers as well who are able to provide this service. And then we have representation, and this is available to those who do not qualify for any of our the existing national legal aid schemes, so LAB and PDO. Or if your clients have exhausted these options, but you still think, hey, there are some extraordinary factors that we need to highlight, and we still think they need a lawyer, you can reach out to us, and we will assist them through the Family Justice Support Scheme, the Criminal Legal Aid Scheme, or the Ad Hoc Pro Bono Scheme. Please note that there is a means test that's being applied as well. It's the exact same means test that PDO and LAB applies, but for extraordinary factors, we do consider other things as well. On the next slide, what I've done is I've included all of the aid schemes, right? National legal aid schemes as well as Pro Bono SG schemes. And I've highlighted in red the schemes that we administer. The aim here is just to show you this is what the pro bono landscape looks like. You may not be able to identify where to send your client to, but if you do have these questions, you can always contact us and we will help you accordingly. But just as a summary, on the next page, the Family Justice Support Scheme is meant to assist clients who are facing issues in matrimonial matters. Generally, if your client is a foreigner and may need assistance, they should come to us because they may not be able to access the National Legal Aid Scheme, LAB. And in addition to that, we also administer a means test in order to assist some of these applicants. If they still fail our means test, there is also the option of a modest means scheme where we have volunteer lawyers who offer their services at reduced rates. So people who don't pass LAB's means test or Pro Bono SG's means test sometimes qualify under this secondary scheme called the modest means track. And we assist people by giving them or assisting them with representation at reduced rates. The Criminal Legal Aid Scheme, I think my colleague Marshall has already talked about it. We provide criminal legal assistance and we co-deliver legal aid with the PDO. So we take on about 40% of the caseload from the PDO and we serve the foreigner population as well. And on the last page, the Ad Hoc Pro Bono Scheme. I always call this our KIASU scheme. We try and take up all of the cases that other schemes don't cover. We try and plug the gaps. So sometimes we have social workers coming to us to tell us, we can't afford, we can't find assistance anywhere else. They don't fall under any scheme. Where can we send this person to? We consider them under Ad Hoc Pro Bono Scheme. Okay, so now we've given you all of this information and you're saturated and you're thinking, where do I go if I have an issue? Who do I talk to? And I've often had this question from social workers. There are so many schemes. I don't know where to direct my client to. Very simple. On the next slide, I've included some very general pointers. If you're a social worker looking for legal guidance, or if you're a social worker looking to refer your client with legal issues for guidance, the first question you should ask yourself is, which CDC do you fall in? If you fall under the Northeast or the Northwest, just send us an email to the email addresses you see on your screen. If your client is an SCC member, email our Transnational Family Care Center. And if you still don't know where to go, the catch-all email is help@Pro Bono SG, and you can give us a call and we'll direct you accordingly. So take a picture of this screen and we'll circulate the slides.
Thank you, Sat, for the sharing on PBSG. We will now invite Ms. Ang Bee Lian, Commissioner for the Maintenance of Parents, to moderate the panel discussion with Mr. Jonathan Chong, Dr. Leonard Lee, Mr. Marshall Lim, and Ms. Satna Rai. As a reminder to all our participants, you can still submit your questions via Pigeonhole. We will flash the QR code again, or you can log into www.pigeonhole.at and enter our passcode SSCapB 2024. Bee Lian, we will hand it over to you now.
That was really quite amazing. We've got really 4 excellent presentations, and I wish that I had the privilege in the past, to have all of them seated together, giving me this whole compendium of knowledge. I'll perhaps just, while I wait for your questions to come in the Pigeonhole, please have them coming in. We've got quite a bit of time, so we'll be able to respond to all your questions. But maybe I'll just pick up from where Sadhana had led off. You know, this probono.sg is one of my favorite SSAs. I tell you why. All right, they're there to create awareness. They're there to give advice to people like us at the ground trying to help clients, and they do advocacy work. And this webinar is in a way and a very good example of exactly what they're doing. I also was very impressed with really, you know, the amazing case that I think Jonathan brought us through, LAB. You know, of that case, you know, that is involving a transnational family, and amazing work that LAB has done. So these are really quite, you know, advanced type of social legal integration work that we have done that really have touched a lot of families. Then I also want to pick up one more thing, which I thought Marshall mentioned that was so important, which I hope we have some time to actually explore later, which is beyond legal representation needs. All right, and that's where most of you in the audience, you come in, because what is the other complementary things at the ground that can complement what the legal professionals here today have shared with us? So it's really quite amazing. It's also wonderful because they put so much of these stuff into tech stuff, you know, which we can just access and, you know, really use productive time. So I'm really impressed with all the speakers. Let the questions come in. I'm trying to get my questions coming in. All right, but maybe we can pick it up from, you know, some of the questions I think I'm sure is burning in everybody's mind, which is really, I think Pro Bono SG, Sadhana did mention that, you know, when all else doesn't work, you just go to the help at probono.sg, right? And then put in your question. But really, maybe we want to hear from the panelists. You know, if you have one or two things that you would like practitioners, you know, to really even access the services even more effectively, what might be some of these advice that you would give to them? And maybe I'll start with the like you say, the newest kid on the block, you know, the Public Defender's Office, because I saw that you were able to pick about 160 cases right up to the end, you know, and you're very new in this area. Something that came to my mind as well, if you, and you didn't exist, right, some years back, what would have happened to those type of cases? You know, maybe we want to hear some comments from you, and then also inviting you to comment on how can we at the ground better be able to access some of these newer services.
So, thanks. It's a really good question. So prior to the formation of the PDO in 2022, I think a lot of the criminal defense aid was provided for, supported by CLAS, the Criminal Legal Aid Scheme, which is currently administered by Pro Bono SG. So this was really the state of play at a point of time before the Public Defender's Office came into existence. And I think the bulk of the cases were either taken up by CLAS or by private lawyers who provided pro bono hours at their own time. So I think that as the years progressed, there was a growing recognition that we are prepared to now provide, like we have been providing civil legal assistance through LAB, we're now prepared to provide criminal defense aid through a government department. And that motivated the formation of the Public Defender's Office in 2022. In terms of getting, I think, the right type of aid or directing your clients to the right departments or agencies, whether it's an SSA or whether it's a government department, I tend to take the view that there is really, what I call the no wrong door approach, right? So long as you have a query that you can't find an answer for, or you're uncertain as to which might be the most suitable agency, whether it's LAB, whether it is PDO, whether it is Pro Bono SG, or whether it's CJC, right? You can approach either of these departments or agencies or organizations, and I'm very sure that we'll be very happy to point you in the right direction. So if, say, for example, you know, a case comes into us and does not appear to be a criminal matter, but it appears to be a civil matter, and the applicant is in fact looking for civil legal assistance, we're quite happy to point the applicant in the right direction and send it off to our colleagues in the Legal Aid Bureau. And this is what I think effectively we want to do. We don't want to turn applicants or clients away and leave them with no solution. We want to give them a direction so that they know where they can turn to get the help that they need. Right. So this is really the heart of my advice. If in doubt, knock on the door, right? That door will open to you, right? And the right type of aid, I'm sure, will be provided after you're given the right set of directions. So do not worry about knocking on the wrong door. There is no wrong door.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, the no wrong door policy is actually very, very evident from the presentations, because everybody says, when in doubt, just actually access the website and after that lodge your questions and ask for help. What is happening at the ground now is that there are lots of reports, and particularly even for the older people, not necessarily the older people, even the very tech savvy, mobile tech savvy people are actually subjected to quite a lot of these scams. This is a question that I'm sure all four of you have some views about and comment. Is there anything that the ground folks can actually do a little bit more to prevent? And then those who actually are already sort of getting to that situation, what else can they do with regard to scams?
Right.
Maybe we want to start with Sardana. I'm sure you get lots of that since you've got thousands of these inquiries.
Sure. Thanks, Bilian. I think for starters, the government has already done quite a fair bit in raising awareness about how to protect yourself from scams. I mean, I speak after speaking to my parents, and they're much more aware now. Like if there's a number with a plus something, don't pick up, don't anyhow talk to people, don't show your IC and all that. So I think the awareness is already there, and the government has done a really good job in raising the type of awareness that's required. But sometimes, unfortunately, some people do still fall victim to these scams. And I think the first port of call is always to speak to someone about it. And I've always said, firstly, always either go and make a police report, let the police know that this is something that has happened to you, try and see whether you can put a stop to the exchange of funds. But the second port of call can possibly be getting an advice from a lawyer. And we can do this through several ways. You can sign up for a community legal clinic session where you get to speak with a lawyer for over 20 minutes on your issue and to get some general guidance as to what you can do. The second thing you can actually do, especially if the client is someone who is not mobile, the client has some difficulties as well, may not be able to travel, they can actually go to any one of our community law centers to get assistance. My understanding generally is once you've fallen victim to a scam, it's generally quite hard to recover any sort of loss of monies. But if you seek help fast enough, we can at least try and put a stop to the loss and try and reduce or mitigate the damage arising from the scam.
Yeah.
How about legal aid? I mean, I'm sure there are scam cases and then you go to LAB and you say, please help me.
Thanks for the question, William. Yeah, thanks for the question, William. Yeah, we do get people coming to us for advice if they've fallen victim to a scam. Generally, it can be quite difficult to recover the amounts because the applicants tend to come to us quite late in time. Actually, as Sat has said, a good way of mitigating any loss or damage is to act fast and to go to their own financial institutions to stop the transfer. Sometimes it can be difficult to provide civil legal aid if the funds have been transferred to a foreign jurisdiction. Yeah, we won't be able to assist in those situations. And many times, as much as we really, really want to help, the difficulty will come because we are unable to identify exactly who took the money.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, if I could just add as well, in cases where they do manage to identify, I think recently there have been some reports of them managing to uncover, or the police managing to uncover some scams or managing to uncover the ringleaders of such types of scams, there are actually some kind of compensation orders that can be made by the court in order to try and recover as much monies as possible to compensate victims. So those are options that are available to victims as well, but that's only if the perpetrator can be identified and brought to justice. So that's one of the biggest challenges that even if you try and seek a lawyer to assist, it tends to be difficult to do so. But if you can identify who the perpetrator is, there are legal options, and the legal clinics will be able to guide you to that. And even in fact, if the case is being prosecuted in a criminal court, the prosecutor also may be able to, I mean, especially if you're a victim, you're talking to the police, they may be able to provide you with some options.
So from the perspective of the PDO, I think we deal with, or we work with, I think, clients in more unfortunate circumstances. Many of them are unwitting, I call them unwitting accomplices of scammers. If you've been keeping up with the news, there have been a recent spate of cases where a lot of people give up their bank account details or their SingPass details, promises of money and payment. And then these bank accounts or these SingPass credentials are used or abused to perpetuate more scams, to facilitate money laundering. And then the individuals who give up their credentials, whether SingPass credentials or bank access codes, then become liable for criminal prosecution, usually under the Computer Misuse Act, for giving up those credentials or for facilitating a crime, typically money laundering. So this is I think that the profile of the clients that we work with who are facing criminal charges when they get involved in such scams, not directly, usually not directly, but because they provided, I think, very important tools that the scammers rely on to perpetuate their schemes or their scams. So apart from, I think, the legal services that we provide to try to explain our clients' circumstances to the prosecution and to the court, a large part of it is also trying to educate our clients about the risks that there are out there, and also to provide them with that immunize them against further opportunities for scammers to prey on them and make use of them. While at the same time, we try to help them address the legal problems. This is unfortunately an ongoing problem, and the government is working very, very hard to try to address this problem. If you look around the world, we are not alone, right? Scammers. I was just reading a report yesterday about a lady who fell prey to a tech support scam. So a scammer took over a computer, effectively had free access, uncontrolled access to her credentials, and then started to transfer money out of her accounts. So in terms of what we do, because and this is a common thread between all the stakeholders who are here today, we provide a lot of online resources, right? Say, for example, for LAB, for LAB and for PDO, we provide online application forms. We provide payment modes online for payment of contribution. There's always a concern that there could be scammers out there who make use of such opportunities to put up a scam page, for example, to intercept payments, all right, or try to deceive applicants to use these unauthorized websites to make supposed payments to MinLaw. So there are some very basic steps that your clients can take to protect themselves. First and foremost, to always check the links to ensure that these links are legitimate, because it's so easy to change one character, in the URL, and then you get redirected to a completely different site run by a criminal syndicate, right? So it's always very important to check. It's always very important to verify, the credentials of the person who's calling you. I think government officials will not call you and ask for your credit card details to facilitate payments, right? There are formal modes to collect payment through formal channels through our websites. So these are verifiable methods. So simple steps to protect yourselves from scammers in general, and also simple steps to protect yourselves from being misled and falling victim to an online scam. We are, I think, cognizant of that. what we can do, or what we have always been doing, is to keep improving on our public awareness and public education, to try to get everybody, familiarized with the various methods and schemes that are undertaken by scammers to scam people. But when they're motivated enough, they try to keep one step ahead of us. They are more creative in their methods. All right. The best thing that we can do is to always be vigilant.
Yeah. Now we've got a very interesting question in the pigeonhole, which I think we should address. Yeah. What are the factors to consider in deciding between seeking help at LAB and pro bono .sg? So both gets a right to comment. Yeah.
I don't know. I was going to invite Sat to say something first.
I was going to say how good looking the lawyers are. As you didn't produce a photo of your lawyers. Okay, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
I think for starters, if you are a Singaporean or PR, or your client is a Singaporean or PR, your first port of call should be LAB in terms of getting representation assistance. If your client doesn't know if they want to go to court yet, or they just need some general legal guidance, they can come to any of our clinics, or they can come to our community law centers. Those are open to everyone, Singaporean, PR, foreigners. And we do get a lot of inquiries like that, where they're not quite sure if it's something they'd want to go and apply to get a lawyer for. So if your client is still in that deciding stage, they don't know what their options are, they just want to consider, get a session with us for consultation first. I think LAB also provides some form of assistance through its legal clinics. I'll let Jonathan share a little bit more about that. But so you can come to PBSG if you're a Singaporean PR for consultations. But if you do decide that you want to take legal action and you want to get a lawyer to assist you, we will then direct you to LAB. If you're a foreigner, you come straight to us and we will assist you.
Thanks, Sat. I think maybe to build on what you said, it will also depend on the nature of your client's case and how urgent it may be. So, for example, I understand that pro bono clinic slots are limited. So, for example, if your client really needs to see a lawyer today, he or she can always come down to Legal Aid, because we run advice sessions for the entire day, morning all the way to evening. We take our last registration, I think, at like 4:30 or 5. So as long as your client makes it there at that time, he or she will get legal advice. It could also depend on the nature of help your client needs. So for example, if your client just needs some simple assistance to draft a will, yeah, please come to Legal Aid. We'll assign your client's file to a lawyer who can assist. And of course, I think if you feel your client's case may be somewhat complex, I mean, I'm not too sure the full, I'm not too sure the type of scope or specialization that Pro Bono SG volunteers have. But at Legal Aid, we do have a panel of about 150 private solicitors who assist us. So within that 150, we are usually able to find someone who can do that case if we ourselves don't have the expertise to do it.
Maybe if I could just add also, like LAB, we have a team of volunteers as well that can address complex inquiries. Some of our volunteers have 20, 30 years of experience as well. So very similar setup, I think. But again, to avoid duplication of services, the primary difference is we can't take on cases which qualify for national legal aid. So if you are Singaporean PR and you qualify with the LAB, that should be your first port.
We should be the first port of call. Yeah. Thanks very much.
Well, we are there. I'm very mindful that Pro Bono.sg has just launched a center for addressing legal issues, particularly pertaining to transnational families. Just launched, hot. But they've been doing this work for quite a while. And I think in the audience today, we have many who are working with a lot of these transnational families, and many of them actually do need socio-legal help and integration. Maybe I'll invite Sadhana to comment a little bit more. And then again, you know, really, because it's really an unmet need, a need that is growing, but you are trying to go into this space. So how can the practitioners at the ground work more collaboratively with Pro Bono SG?
Thanks for the excellent question, Bilian. I think the avenues for legal aid for foreigners have always been there. We've always served the foreigner population, but what I feel the improvement we needed was to take a more multidisciplinary approach. We assume that the service is there, people need help, they'll come and use it. But sometimes you need to create the pathway to make it easier for people to get assistance. With foreigners, there could be a lot of hurdles for them. They could not feel comfortable speaking to someone they don't know. They could feel very uncomfortable coming to a very sterile law office, for example. Lawyers can be scary, maybe not us, but you know, in private practice, lawyers can appear to be very intimidating, especially if you're not Singaporean or you can't speak the language. There was also a recognition that we may not be the best people or best placed to identify some of the hurdles that they may be facing in their lives, the way social workers can. So social workers have an intimate knowledge of the client's lives. They will know what some of the challenges are. They will know what the potential is. How can they grow? Are these real possibilities? You know, and the social worker who's working with the client would have greater access to their lives. They work much more closely with the client and they have a bond with the client already. The other issue we noticed as well was that sometimes it's a social worker who has the question, right? And they want to ask that question to a lawyer on behalf of the client so they can clarify it and then communicate it to the client. So what we then thought would be a great idea, and that has actually come to fruition in terms of the Transnational Family Care Center, was to create a center point, a focal point for all inquiries. You come here, you get access to your social worker, you get access to all of the other types of support you may need. Financial support, for example, support for your children, support for their education. And if there is a legal angle to this, there's a lawyer on site as well to help you. It's a one-stop hub to help anybody facing transnational family issues. The idea also is it supports social workers. Now, we're all aware of the burden that social workers have when they are dealing with so many clients, so many inquiries, and sometimes it can get tiring bouncing between organizations. And so this one-stop hub or one-stop portal is really intended to assist them with knowledge transfer as well. You get to speak to a lawyer who's based on site, and it becomes a knowledge hub that allows for the exchange of information, because it's not just social workers who need to learn. And I'll be the first to have the humility to say this. Lawyers need to learn from social workers as well. Our job is a very social service type of job. Apart from the legal aspects, we also need to learn human interaction. We also need to learn how to deal with the very people we're trying to help, people who come from modest means, who may not live the same type of lives that people who are differently able to afford lawyers, people who have different types of means are able to. So I think from our perspective, the TFCC accomplishes just that. The Transnational Family Care Center is intended to allow for the exchange of information. It's a knowledge hub. It's intended to provide greater support for transnational families and provide them with a safe space for them to get assistance, legal assistance, financial assistance. And also, I think a key point as well is a safe space for the family. It's a safe space for children as well. If they have questions, they can come to the Transnational Family Care Center, and it's not a scary place for them as well.
Thank you for that. I sense many in the audience, particularly the practitioners, especially the social workers, probably feeling the very positive vibes. So know where to go to. I think it's at Block 5, Delta Avenue. And that's where the center is. You really should try to engage the pro bono staff there for some of these. There is a question, whenever we see this word called concierge, our eyes light up, right? Because we think concierge means come alongside me and really provide the services that I wish. And I think was Leonard in CJC, you say you have a concierge on site. Yeah, so people are curious what they're trained in. Are they professionals? Maybe you want to comment about what really this concierge service provides. Maybe you've raised a lot of expectations.
Yeah, so basically, the consultants actually help. Okay, so previously how it works is that we actually point them out to where to go to for help and etc. Even within a court itself, how to get the documents ready, how do you go to the terminal to get it done. But that is not enough. I think today, the expectation from people is that they would need some hand holding, right up to the point where they actually lodge their court documents or other reports that they require. So today we're actually training up volunteers and law students to do precisely that. Okay, so if there's anyone who actually a self-represented person who does not have a lawyer to help them and don't want a lawyer or don't qualify a lawyer, don't qualify for a pro bono lawyer, okay, we can actually then handhold them, okay, to the various parts of the courts to get their documents filed. Okay, so once it's filed, I think that's the positive experience that we want from users to have in regards to the justice system in Singapore.
Thank you for that. There are quite a few questions with regard to the deputyship. Okay, of course, I realize we should have actually the public guardian seated in the panel as well, because lots of these actually come under the Office of the Public Guardian, OPG, and sits with MSF. But I think at the ground, there's a lot of, context with how do we actually assess mental capacity, and then what's the legal definition and all that. I'm sure some of that also flows into some of your agencies. Anybody would like to comment on this whole area about deputyship, and then, what else we can do to better help clients? Perhaps, Jonathan, you have a go at it?
Sure, Billion. Would it be possible just to give a little bit more context to some of these questions? Maybe I can try and answer some specific concerns.
I think at the ground, the first concern often is about when they start to already identify early signs of dementia and all that. Then, of course, the first thing that comes to people's mind is about deputyship and all that. Yeah, and then they probably are in the limbo. Where should they go to consult?
Okay, so maybe I take this question in two parts. Let's talk about a situation where your client knows that someone still has capacity, but may have the potential to lose capacity. If that's the case, actually you can encourage your clients to, or that person who your client knows, to actually do a lasting power of attorney. It's quite straightforward now. It's a form that you can download online off the OPG's website. And at the end of the form needs to be certified by either a practicing lawyer or a doctor. It's quite straightforward, actually. So that's when the person still has capacity. Now, what happens when someone loses capacity? That's when your deputyship question arises, I think, Billion. So, if you're talking about it from a social worker perspective, I think there are perhaps two things social workers can bear in mind. The first one would be if you're assisting a client to apply to be the deputy of someone, your client would probably have to bring that person who has lost capacity, or who we call P, for a medical review to be assessed by a doctor to confirm that the person has indeed lost his or her capacity. And sometimes there are costs involved in this assessment, and perhaps the social worker can actually help the client navigate issues relating to the costs. The second part, which I think social workers can help their clients in for deputyship applications, is to really help the client think about what sort of powers will the client need to take care of the person who lacks capacity. It could just be a simple conversation like, to take care of P, would you need to help deal with his flat? Would you need to help deal with his bank accounts? So this will prompt your client to sort of think about what are the powers that he or she needs to take care of P, so that when you come and see us at the Legal Aid Bureau or some other pro bono solicitor to assist, you will sort of be able to tell us exactly the what sort of rough areas we should look at when we craft your deputyship application. And actually, maybe I could just add one more point. So sometimes when we have applicants come to us, we have to remind them that when you apply to be someone's deputy, you may not be the only one who's interested. There are what we call relevant persons who have an interest in the life of P. So before coming to apply to be a deputy, it would always be a good idea to think about who else would be interested in P's life and seek the consent of these people to be appointed P's deputy. That would really, really help.
Thank you for that, Jonathan. There is also interest about how do parents get access to the co-parenting app? You know, at what stage is the app introduced to parents? Leonard?
Okay, wait. Just to jump into the question about deputy shape. Okay, if you're not sure, just use the Navigate Finder, which I actually showed just now on the screen. It'll give you the exact step-by-step instructions, and also to actually qualify you whether do you does you qualify to be a deputy for the person. Okay, so you need to get the step correct first. Then after that, you will then go into 7 stages of the application of deputyship. Now, it's not a very straightforward process, which is the reason why we actually invested quite a bit into this area due to the aging population and due to the number of MCA matters that we are actually encountering. Okay, so yeah, just go to the Navigate Finder, and if you are confident enough to actually do it on your own, you can just use the ADDA to just do it. Okay, because we have like numerous people who actually successfully lodged their court forms to the courts and it got approved. Okay, so that will help to cut costs on legal fees. Okay, but you still need to pay for the other court fees and etc. that Jonathan had just mentioned just now. Okay, so the co-parenting app, okay, you can actually use it in every stage. You can even married couple, right? You want to use it just to just have a study on whether your parenting habits, is it affecting the child? You can also use it. There's no restriction on when or the time they actually use the co-parenting app. Normally, I mean, unless there is a situation where both parents are really not on talking terms, and we also know there are numerous cases where the ex-spouse refuses to pay maintenance, even though there's a potential jail term after a while, and if for ex-spouses who actually refuse to even give access, okay, to the other ex-spouse, okay, for perhaps out of spite, or even just doesn't want him or her to have any interaction with the child. So it can be used at any stage. In fact, at one stage, we are currently still working on with family courts where how can we actually make this co-parenting app mandatory, in certain time or stage. Okay, so that is a work in progress still. But in a nutshell, I think you can actually use it at any stage. As long as you want to make sure that whatever actions that you take is recorded down somewhere, and in case in the future when there's going to be a dispute or whether there's going to be a legal proceeding towards you, okay, then you can actually download the logs to prove that you have done certain things which then help you in your legal case lah. And it's free to use.
There are some questions in relation to working with children and youth. I think generally we know that for children, youth, and some of the youth justice matters, the probation service even has an on-site office in the state courts. So the MSF officers, probation officers are also available to provide guidance, help, direction for help and schemes. But I'm just wondering whether from your perspectives, from the various agencies we heard today, there will be instances where maybe you deal more with the adult, but the adults often have children and young people around them. What are the kinds of things that perhaps the community or you would like then the practitioners listening to this webinar today to be able to complement some of the work that you do? Open to all the panel members to comment. Are there things that you wish, from where you are, you provide good legal service, but if only you have something else that complement what earlier on, I think what was Marshall who said it, beyond legal representation needs, that you wish you could also refer these people to. And I'll leave that to Sadhana as the last speaker because I think you're going to do all the catch-all, okay? But for the rest of you, you are more specific. Are there areas where they can complement what you do? From Jonathan, then right down to CJC and then to PD.
Okay, thanks, Bilan. That's a very interesting question. Actually, I think at OEB, we always feel that the legal trouble tends to be a symptom of some deeper underlying issue that our applicants face. Actually, today, we already partner with a lot of different agencies and organizations to try and address these other issues. I've mentioned two of them during my presentation, that's PAVE and MSF, and they deal with everything from family violence all the way to homelessness. We actually do have a few other tie-ups. For example, with this organization called Adulan Life Counseling, they help with credit issues. So for example, if we have an applicant who perhaps we are unable to extend aid because at the end of the day, the only thing he has to deal with is when and how he has to pay a debt, then this organization could come in and help to negotiate payments. We also work with an organization called Building Bridges. It helps parents in conflict deal with variations to court orders relating to access and things like that. So actually, we do have a lot. We do see the value of ensuring that an applicant's non-legal needs are met at the same time as trying to deal with the legal problem at hand. Yeah, and we do have all these partnerships.
Yeah, also from the inception of the CJC, I think we have been working very closely with SSAs, FSAs, okay, in many of our social cases. In fact, I think many of you out there would have worked with us some way or other. Okay, but this time around, next year, we're actually taking one step forward. Okay, we are given a help center in the new Family Justice Courts, and what's going to happen is that we have already tied up with a SSA, okay, to then co-locate with us. Okay, so within the court itself, there's going to be a social service agency that is able to provide immediate help for areas of victims of family violence and for divorce cases or even and different matters. So just to understand where Bilan is coming from, yes, we can actually consider looking at areas where it concern the youth, okay, or children. Okay, because I think we would have the necessary know-how and resources to do that.
So I really have to begin by saying or by affirming or emphasizing the importance of all the social work professionals in the system, right? Working with the system and working with the various partners here, whether it's in terms of the delivery of civil legal assistance or criminal legal assistance. But perhaps social work may not necessarily be at the centerpiece when we talk about providing legal assistance. It is, and it ought to be, I think, a very important component when we are trying to address in a holistic fashion all the problems that are being faced by the applicant, whether it's a civil matter or whether it's a criminal matter. I think Jonathan said that legal problems tend to be a symptom of a larger problem, and I think that much can also be said, especially for persons who face legal trouble in the criminal sense, right? So they get charged in court, and especially when you face criminal charges, I think that the impact on the family is perhaps felt even more greatly, especially when we say, for example, you talk about a sole breadwinner of the family who is arrested and then put in remand, and suddenly the family loses a source of income. That's from the financial perspective, and then from the familial relations perspective, the family suddenly, even if it's temporarily, loses a father, a brother, a mother, a sister, and a husband or a wife, and that sudden, I think, a tear, right, in the family fabric, is very keenly felt, right? And what we do as lawyers is that we often see and we often hear from clients who are faced with such trauma, even as they are trying to navigate their own legal problems. So oftentimes we have clients who, for example, are in remand and therefore have no immediate access to their family members and do not have ready information about how their family is doing, right? And we as lawyers, we try very hard to reach out to the family members, say, we've got clients who say, can you please try to reach out to my mother? She's elderly, she's at home. I'm the primary caregiver. I do not know how she's doing right now, and then we try to do that. And these moments are moments where we also reflect as legal professionals to see how we can either ourselves provide those help or connect our clients with social work professionals who are better placed to look at their needs from a more holistic perspective. So we are very, I suppose, privileged in that sense, in that right from the get-go, when we started the Public Defender's Office, we had very strong support from the social work sector. We had very strong support from MSF, very strong support from the professionals who do and conduct social work and work with these clients. And we see that reflected because when we refer cases to the whether it's SSAs or whether it's MSF, they are taken up very quickly, and our clients are given assistance, advice, and even when they are not able to personally connect with their family because they are remanded in prison, they know that there's support out there. They know that there are people who are taking care of the family, watching out for their family's interests, and that provides and brings them great comfort, And for us as lawyers who work with them, when we come back and report to them that we have connected the family with, social workers, and the social workers have reported that the family is doing well, and the social workers have connected them to, say, for example, to get home care assistance, financial aid, medical bills are taken care of, they, given access to medical social workers, for example, to deal with hospital bills, you see that immediate sense of relief, right? And that comes from the invaluable work, right, that's done by our social work professionals. It cannot be overemphasized how important the role is that all of you play, right? As lawyers, our training is very specific, right? We diagnose and treat legal problems. We try, right? Yeah, typically
clinically.
Yeah. The PDO, right? We recognize this gap in the skills. We are trying very hard to equip our PDs, our public defenders, with the right skill sets, at least to recognize symptoms, all right, and to know where to direct our clients to so that they can get the right care plan for themselves. But we recognize and we salute the professionals who actually do the work with our clients to help address all these other problems that the legal sector is not necessarily able to provide direct assistance for. So in this regard, it has to be said that for all these agencies, these departments, these SSAs who are sitting here, the representative stakeholders here, right? We are not silos working on our own, right? We are not. The PDO works very closely with PBSG to co-deliver criminal aid. The PDO works very closely with LAB because some of our clients also have civil law needs, right? And we direct our clients to LAB to receive legal advice when it relates to civil matters, for example. So some of our clients who are remanded in prison, for example, have matrimonial law issues that they require some legal assistance, and LAB is there to assist them. There are people who may not necessarily qualify for government-funded legal aid schemes. Then there is ad hoc legal assistance provided by Bono SG. There's also assistance provided by CJC. So it's in as much as we are individual organizations with our individual mandates, we are working collectively to try to improve, I think, the services that we can provide. Bearing in mind at the end of the day, all right, that we are part of a greater collective and that includes the social work professionals who are working very hard.
Could I add also, PBSG also provides a youth legal clinic option for the youth who may have legal questions, who may be embroiled in something. Even the lawyers that we station at the youth legal clinic, they've been specially curated to make them more accessible. Sometimes if you get older lawyers, they may feel a bit more intimidated. It's like talking to a parent. So sometimes they like the younger, cooler lawyers. We have those lawyers stationed at our youth legal clinics. My wish list very quickly is, I think we advocate in court, you advocate on the ground on behalf of the youth. And I think that's really important because no one knows what they're going through except the friend that's walking beside them. And I feel if you're a social work professional and you're on the ground with them, you're going through their day-to-day struggles, you're best placed to advocate on their behalf and push them in the right direction to get assistance in the right way. So to me, my wish list is to hear more about their struggles from their advocates who walk with them in their journey.
Wonderful. They have given all of us the assurance that back end, they're all very integrated. So I think we've really taken a lot of these socio-legal issues and matters really in a much more integrated manner. For those of you who are in the audience and wanting to access these services, you know where to go to now in a much more even efficient and effective way. You also know what are the preparatory work that you need to do in order to help also our agencies to be able to respond more speedily and quickly. We're going to bring this webinar to a close very soon. We'll allow each of the panelists, one or two sentences that you might want to use as your parting words to the audience here, starting with perhaps Jonathan.
Okay. Thank you, Vivian. It's really been a privilege to have the opportunity to speak to social workers. We really appreciate all this. I think I actually just want to build on what Sat said earlier. Actually, the social worker in helping a client deal with a legal matter is a very, very important and crucial component. You are able to regularize or regulate your client to be in the best state of mind and the best physical state to give us the instructions we legal professionals need to effectively advocate for them. That is the broad concept. And you are also very well placed to help them in a very practical way. And it could be as simple as collating documents on their behalf, helping them access SingPass to take out documents. These small acts should never be underestimated. And of course, you know your client best. You know if this particular client has a particular need or particular preference or particular way of communication that he or she may respond to best. Please tell us, please tell the lawyers so that we can really help your client.
Yeah, there's one word to describe, I think, trust. So there is one thing which social workers have the upper hand on all of us. Okay, you have worked with your clients, you have worked with a journey with them, and as what Jonathan said, I think you have to ask them for the SingPass, will probably give it to you too. Okay, so definitely, okay, at the legal side of things, right? Okay, we definitely need your being a part of us, in terms of helping your clients together, especially in their legal matters. Okay, so I think yes, you can see all four have all various type of legal schemes that any one point, any one of you, okay, can have access to. Okay, as for the CJC, okay, just think IKEA.
Yeah, so very short, 5 words, echoing I suppose the motto of a very famous football club in England. You will never walk alone. Right? Yeah, you will never walk alone. So yeah, there's always help available. Just reach out to any one of these agencies, departments that are here. Right? There's no wrong door. We will direct you to a place where you can get help for your clients as well as for yourselves. Thank you.
I also have 5 words, but nothing to do with football, and it's all roads lead to Rome. I often hear social workers saying there are so many avenues now, there are so many options, where do we go? And I want you to look at it as a good thing. It's great that there are so many more options for you. It's great that there are so many people who are willing to step in to help. All you need to do is reach out and ask for it, and you will be directed to the right place. We are all friends here. We direct cases to the right avenue all the time. So please don't be ashamed. Don't be frightened. Don't think, oh, I'm going to be so embarrassed if I go to the wrong place. Just reach out, talk to us, and you will get the answer.
Thank you so much, Sudhana, Marshall, Leonard, Jonathan. Really, it's been a wonderful learning experience this afternoon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Bilian, Jonathan, Leonard, Marshall, and Saad for such an insightful discussion. For those who didn't manage to catch everything, please don't worry. The recording of this webinar will be available on Pro Bono SG's YouTube channel in about 2 weeks' time. In the meantime, you can explore the links shared in the chat for more information on any of the legal help agencies today, or check out our other webinars on common legal topics. At the end of this webinar, a survey will appear on your screen. We would really appreciate your comments and feedback, which will be used to improve future webinars. And with that, on behalf of MSF and Pro Bono SG, thank you for joining us today. Have a good week ahead.